Psalm 76. In Judah, God is known. His name is great in Israel. His abode has been established in Salem, his dwelling place in Zion. There he broke the flashing arrows, the shield, the sword, and the weapons of war. Glorious are you, more majestic than the mountains full of prey. The stout-hearted were stripped of their spoil. They sank into sleep. All the men of war were unable to use their hands at your rebuke, O God of Jacob. Both rider and horse lay stunned. But you are to be feared. Who can stand before you when once your anger is roused? From the heavens you uttered judgment. The earth feared and was still, when God arose to establish judgment to save all the humble of the earth. Surely the wrath of man will praise you. The remnant of wrath you will put on like a belt. Make your vows to Yahweh, your God, and perform them. Let all around him bring gifts to him who is to be feared, who cuts off the spirit of princes, who is to be feared by the kings of the earth. So this psalm is basically the book of Daniel in poetry form, right? Like if you took the book of Daniel and made an opera out of it and put it on a stage, this song would be what they were singing at the end when, their arms are around each other's shoulders and they're doing the kick line and whatever. This is what they would be singing. They would be singing, look, God wins. He's sovereign over princes. He's sovereign over, the outcome of wars, and he determines this stuff even himself. And so the princes and the kings and the generals and even the warriors themselves that think that they're deciding things, they're actually doing what God has decreed from the heavens is going to happen. So this is really good news for us because we're on the Lord's side and we have a sovereign God who in the end is going to win. So when things look bad, when we're at war, there is a God who is still managing affairs, even if it's not as we would prefer he do so all the time. And so the conclusion of all of this, you would call it the application of this message, is found at the end here. He says, make your vows to Yahweh, your God, and perform them. Let all around him bring gifts to him who is to be feared, who cuts off the spirit of princes, who is to be feared by the kings of the earth. This brings to mind Psalm 2, where he says, look, the kings, the princes of the earth, they gather around together, they conspire against God and against his anointed, and God sits in the heavens and he just goes, really? Like, really? Oh, okay. You guys really think you're something, huh? And he just treats them like they're nothing, and he sets them aside as an inconvenience. These are the most powerful men together in a conglomeration of global military strength and might, and God's like, pew! So, again, this is good news, especially in light of stuff that's going on in the world with wars. I mean, you think about what's going on in Ukraine, nobody can get their hands around that. The Russians started this thing, they can't get their hands around it. The Ukrainians are, they got attacked and they've been, fighting back, but they can't get their hands around it either. They would end it in a moment if they could. So when you see events that are completely out of control, it's good news that there is a God who has put boundaries on this thing. And even if we would prefer that the boundaries were somewhere else, they're still not going to move. And the one who has set the boundaries and did not ask our permission to do so is a good, holy, powerful, and righteous and perfect God. So this is something to be worshiped over these days. And this is something to take comfort in. And even verse 1, in Judah, God is known. His name is great in Israel. And then he goes into his track record of things that he has done. So God's in control, and this is one of the many, many reminders in the Bible that is the case. It's good news, and it's worth resting in this week.